Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. This week you have just me, and I'm excited to announce that we have a brand new course out. So I'm going to be chatting to you a little bit about the course, and very excitingly, it is a stone setting course. So anybody who knows me at all and knows Jewelers Academy and knows the podcast will know we are totally obsessed with stone setting. And it's been a really nice journey over the past I don't even know how many years since we started to gradually add more and more stone setting to our repertoire from the very beginning of stone setting, where you will often learn how to make something like a cabochon, which is a stone with a flat back and a curved top. And you create a nice wall around the stone and push it over. Then we often guide people through learning how to make things like tube settings, where you start with a piece of tube and it's another rub over. Rub over is a kind of category of settings, but you start with the tube and kind of burr into the tube using little tiny metal things called burrs that create shapes in the metal, and then rub that stone over. And then we'll often guide you into doing a flush setting, which is where the stone is sat flush with the top of the metal. So it's almost like an invisible setting, like the stone just looks like it's just embedded in the metal without any rhyme or reason, where we kind of burr through and create an exact shape for the stone and then go around the stone and kind of encourage the metal gently to cover the top of the stone. So they're where we kind of start from. And then we go into things like collet setting. So collet setting is for a fancy cut stone, which is a stone without a flat back, but with a pointed bottom. So there's lots of different types of faceted stones, but usually you start with a round and you might learn a collet setting. So it's got a big, nice, thick wall of metal that is called a collet that you can pop the stone in. And again, we use a little burr to burr out the seat for the stone. Then we push over the top metal. So stone setting is generally about creating a space for the stone to sit in, creating a nice comfy seat, because who doesn't love a comfy seat? And then pushing the metal around the top in some way, shape or form. So after people have learned collet setting, they often might go on to learn a basic claw setting, which is where you use wire usually to create little claws and just gently push that over the stone. Again, burring is our friend in stone setting. So we burr out a little kind of seat in the wire as well sometimes, and kind of pop it over. Use a mixture of files and pushers. So stone setting just becomes this whole thing that opens up. And then once you've done your collet setting, you've done your claw setting, there's so many different variations of those that you can do. But you might then move on to some more sort of micro settings, which is working with much smaller stones, which might be things such as star setting, where you're using gravers, so the tools get a little bit more sharp, using gravers to carve out the star shape, kind of, again, using the burr to create a nice seat for the stone, and then using gravers to raise what's called a grain, which is like when you push into the metal and it pushes some metal up and creates just a kind of a random bit of metal to begin with, but you can turn it into a little ball, which we call a grain, and that kind of pushes over the stone a little and the stone sits in. And that's a very addictive technique because there's lots of different things you can do with the grain setting. So you've got your star setting, your grain setting, and then you might move on to something like pave setting, which is used to set lots of little stones next to each other, again using gravers. And that you're starting with a flat sheet of metal usually, and drilling out your holes where your stones are going to go. And then you're sort of working backwards and removing metal and leaving just the claws or the grains or the beads that are going to hold the stone in place. So it's a whole area, stone setting. And even with the things I've mentioned, there's hundreds more different ways that you can do all those things. And the other one I didn't mention, which we teach quite a lot, is the castle setting, which sometimes you'll do before pave because maybe it's a little bit easier. It's hard to say. Some people find some things easier. Some people find other things easier. But this is, again, starts very similar to pave in that you mark out where you want your stones to go. This is small stones usually. And you drill through those holes so that the stones kind of sit there. but then you use your saw blade. Usually it can be done in a number of different ways to actually go down and create little kind of shapes that look a bit like a castle, hence the name. And then you can create claws that are a little bit chunkier usually than the pave setting claws, and push those over. And that looks really beautiful in rings as well as pendants and all different kinds of designs. So that's just a very brief overview of stone setting. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is the fact that we have this brand new stone setting class, which isn't any of those that I mentioned, but it kind of combines some of them and relates to some of them. And I think will be a really nice exploration for some of you, especially if you've done a bit of stone setting before and you're looking to improve your skills and kind of up level and perhaps do more engagement style rings or things with really beautiful stones that you want to show off. And this is a double gallery claw setting. So I will explain what that is for anybody who doesn't know, but of course, go and have a look at the link in the show notes to see the pictures on the website, because pictures are going to be able to show it far better than I can probably explain. But this is a really lovely setting. It's a really classic setting for something like an engagement ring. You can do it with one stone, you could do it with 3 stones, you can do it with as many stones as you like, but it is quite challenging. I've made a couple of these, and the first one I made did melt while I was soldering it, because there's lots of different claws and lots of galleries and things happening. But like always, when we make our first version, it doesn't go to plan, we learn, okay, that's what I did wrong. And the next time it's a little better. And the next time it's a little better. And it's very rewarding to get to that stage when you're like, oh, I can do it now. I've got it. So a double gallery claw setting is a type of claw setting. So the one that I was talking about with the wires, the one that we teach in this course, which is taught by Scott McIntyre, who is a master stone setter. He's an incredible jewelry teacher. He wrote the book Stone Setting. So there's really no one better to learn stone setting from than Scott. And he is also the founder of Vanilla Ink, which is a jewelry school based up in Scotland. So he teaches people pretty much every day. So he's also an awesome teacher. And it's really exciting because this is the first time we've had a course by Scott that is open for anyone to sign up to. He's been teaching on our diploma program, our 3rd years, for a couple of years now, and they absolutely love having him. He's also taught one of the master classes, which is coming out early next year, which is fishtail setting, which I didn't speak about yet, but it's like a variation of the castle setting, but using gravers to create a beautiful kind of pattern in the ring, which creates the fishtail look. Again, a really kind of classical setting to learn for any people wanting to develop their stone setting skills. That will be coming out January, February next year. But he's not taught a class that's kind of just for everyone to join, that's sort of, intermediate level. So this is really exciting. If you'd like to learn from Scott, you've not done one of his courses before, this is going to be a really nice one to join. So what is a type of claw setting, like I mentioned, going back to explaining the setting, you're going to start with a piece of tube. You could also start with a collet. If you've done collet setting before and you know how to make a collet, you could start with one. But the main difference, as Scott will teach you in the course, is that when you do collet setting, you want to leave extra metal around the edge of the stone so that you can burr in, seat the stone in, and push the metal over. Whereas with claw setting, we don't want to see the collet. We want it to sit just underneath the stone so that when the stone is placed on it, we can't see any metal around the edge. Because with claw setting, one of the main goals is to really show the stone as much as possible, let in tons of light to help it reflect and look really super sparkly, and not see much metal. So it's almost like it looks like it's floating, but it's just a couple of claws. So you start with a tube, or you can start with a collet. And then you'll be marking out your double gallery. So a gallery is the bit that the stone sits on underneath the collet that's at the bottom. So a double gallery, if you've done a claw setting before, you probably will have done one gallery, or you may have just done it all with wire. So this is, we're working with tube and sheet. Double gallery means there are 2. So there's a gap in between, which lets even more light in, which is why this is a really classic setting, because it helps to really show off the stones in their best light, which as stone setters, that is one of our main goals, is to make the stone look as gorgeous as it possibly can, whilst also securing it in place and making the whole piece look beautiful. It's quite a tall order sometimes, but this setting really can help with that. So you'll start with your tube, you'll divide it up into 3 parts. You'll be cutting out the middle part, leaving with you just 2 parts. You'll be soldering on your 4 claws, and there are techniques to this to make it a little bit easier than it sounds. And Scott will show you how to hold the piece, how to kind of work with the metal, how to work with the flame, how to hopefully avoid doing what I did and melt it all the first time. Although it's totally fine if you do, because it's all part of the learning journey. And then once you've made your setting, you will obviously learn how to set it. And so this is a really nice introduction to this kind of setting. And I think what's exciting is once you've learned how to do it once, you can then take it further if you want to. You can explore, how would you do this with different shapes? How could you, especially if you've done other stone setting before, how could you bring some of your other settings to work alongside a double gallery claw? Because that might be a really nice central stone, say for a ring, and then you might have some shoulders of the ring with other settings in, if you've done other settings. I definitely recommend for people taking this class that they are intermediate level, that they have done a cabochon setting before, that they've done a tube, that they've done a flush, also that you've done a basic claw setting, and I'd recommend that you've done a collet setting as well. However, if you've not done all those things, but you think you'd really like to give it a go, there's nothing stopping you. You know, you can always give it a try. I just don't want you to be disheartened if you go too fast, too quickly. And for those of you listening thinking, well, I'd love to do that one day, but I'm not quite there, you can always buy the course. You have lifetime access, so you can come back to it at any point. And also, I'd like to let everybody know that this course will be joining the Fine Jewelry Diploma next year. So anybody who has done the Fine Jewelry Diploma before will get access to this course next year when we upload it, because everyone who does our diplomas, when we update them, we give them access to the updates as well, because we want them to have all the best training possible. So if you're listening and you've already done a Fine Diploma, then you will be getting this anyway. So that is awesome when it comes out in the Fine Diploma next year. And if you're joining us for the Fine Diploma next year, or you're on the Silver Diploma now, and you know that's the plan, then you will be getting this. This will be coming to you, coming to a diploma near you soon. But for those of you who perhaps have done other training and you run your own jewelry businesses and that kind of thing, but you just would really like to have a go at this setting, you can go ahead and sign up. It is available from today. Whoop, whoop. And obviously I'll put the link in the show notes where you can go ahead and enroll. It is on offer at the moment, so it is 50% off, but just for 2 weeks, just until the 3rd of December. So just after that Black Friday weekend, 50% off. So it is £119 for the course, which is incredible value considering everything that you will be learning, the lifetime access, there's downloadable course notes, it's very comprehensive. But it is 50% off at the moment, so I think that's £59.50, something like that. It's less than £60. It starts with a 5. But those of you better at maths than me will figure it out. So yeah, go ahead, sign up, have a go. Like I said, it's a brilliant course. It's great value, and we're excited to see what you guys are going to be making from it. Also, this is a great opportunity for us to have just a quick word about Black Friday. As jewelers, we're not super down with the whole Black Friday vibe, especially handmade jewelers. And I usually recommend to people in terms of like business, that it is a good opportunity to talk to your customers. So if you are selling your jewelry this year, it's a great opportunity to be online, to be talking about what you do. But I would say instead of discounting or devaluing your jewelry, devaluing your business in any way, it can be a really nice opportunity to maybe offer something like free postage, or something that you can manage within your business that doesn't devalue what you're doing, but also use it as a chance to say, don't buy from me because there's a discount. Buy from me because you love handmade jewelry, because of these designs. Use it as an opportunity to talk about the value that you bring and that you offer. Because I use eco-friendly packaging, because I work with fair trade or fair mined gold, because I source my gemstones ethically, whatever it is. Those values, I think that people, especially this year, I mean, I think it happens more and more every year, are craving that connection with something greater than just it's a bit cheaper now. And, we don't want to compete with Amazon and all the big kind of companies saying, look, it's cheap, go and get it, it's cheap. There are certain things that that's useful for. If you're trying to buy a TV, Black Friday's great, because it's cheaper. You want some tech for your business, Black Friday's great because it's cheaper. But if you're looking for something a little bit deeper, a little bit more meaningful, a gift for somebody that you love, something for yourself that has, meanings behind it, perhaps something challenging has happened this year and you want to buy yourself a lovely piece of jewelry, people are going to be online on the Friday, on the Saturday, on the Sunday, and on the Cyber Monday. So I think it's a great opportunity to take advantage and say, okay, people are online. What can I offer? What can I bring? And talk about the values and show them your beautiful products, so that while they are buying their electronics and whatever else on Amazon, whilst they're online, they're also getting emails from you. They're looking at you on Instagram and saying, actually, I've really wanted this for a long time. I'm going to go for it. Not because it's discounted, but because it's showing up and it's here and it's what I want. So that was just a small infomercial about Black Friday. And also just to let you know, we will be doing an offer on Black Friday because we do it pretty much every year. And there will be 50% off on pretty much all of our individual courses. So not things like diplomas or foundations, but courses that are like the course I spoke about today, an individual course that you can just go away, use anytime, have lifetime access to. So if you've been thinking about joining any of them, the stone setting ones, the silver ones, the wedding jewelry ones, the business ones, go ahead and have a look at those over the Black Friday weekend, because it's always nice to top up on your training. And even if you can't use them right away, they will be there for you when you are ready. But yes, very, very excited about double gallery core setting. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I'd love to know if you've tried this setting before as well. And if you do buy the course, I would love to see the pieces that you make. So please do tag me in them at Jewelers Academy on Instagram, or come share them with us inside the Facebook group, the wonderful, supportive Jewelers Academy Facebook group. And if you take the course and you get stuck at any point, the Facebook group is brilliant for support. So you can always come and ask. And the course teaches you the setting. Because the setting is quite challenging if you've never done it before, I would recommend just making the setting on its own the first time. This was the journey I went through. And then, of course, you can add on like a jump ring to make it into a pendant, or you could add on a bail, or you could create a ring as well. But that does add a little bit more difficulty. So for those of you that this is new for, I would say start with the setting, then build up to creating a finished piece. And then, the world is your oyster from there. You might decide to do 2 of them together or 3 of them together. And of course, you can buy these settings, and some jewelers do. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's lovely to learn how to make these things from scratch. It definitely has a different quality to it, has a different value to it. And if you're working with clients and customers and you're making something bespoke, then you always have the option. You can say, okay, let's look at your budget, let's look at the time frame, let's look at the stones, let's look at what we're creating. And yeah, if they have a lower budget and the stones are calibrated and they're very standard size, you could probably buy the setting and make it work. But there's a certain look to that. It's not quite bespoke, but it is still a handmade piece that you've made. Or if they have the budget, and especially of the stones, because many natural stones, when you buy them, they're all different shapes and sizes. They're not going to exactly fit into a cast setting. So you can bespokely make a double gallery claw setting for them, which is pretty awesome. So it's a classic. It's a classic setting. Wonderful. All right. Well, let me know how you get on. And if you have any questions about stone setting, because I always love to talk about it, do come and ask me again over on Instagram or in the Facebook group. And I just can't wait to see what everybody does. Wonderful. Well, I will see you back here for another episode of the podcast. I hope you guys are taking care of yourself throughout the Christmas season. I know it can be a little bit hectic, but you're all doing incredibly well. And we are here to support you with whatever you're doing, whether you're selling, whether you're learning, whether you're beginning, whether you have been doing this forever. We all need that kind of love and support throughout these more hectic times, I think. So wonderful. All right. Speak to you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.